Let's pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and county assemblies for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings set upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our county, and of those whose interest you've committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, take us through the order of the day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. Order paper number 78 of Wednesday, 31st May, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next order.
Order number 4, petitions.
Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Honorable Kennedy Ouko. Yes, the leader of majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is it, Honorable Warindu?
The chair pickback was to lay a paper on the report of the pickback, and he mandated me to do that. So I want to do it on his behalf.
Proceed.
Thank you. Pursuant to the provision of standing orders number 182.6 of the Kisumu County Assembly standing orders, I wish to table today, Wednesday, 31st May 2023, a report by Pickback Committee on consideration of the Auditor's General Report on the financial statement of the County Executive of Kisumu for the year ended 30th June 2022. Thank you.
Honorable members, I confirm receipt of the committee report on consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of the Kisumu County Executive for the year ended 30th June 2020 as presented by the Pickback Committee. And I want to direct that the House Business Committee considers this report for purposes of scheduling for debate. Yes, the Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to lay a paper of appointment committee pursuant to the provision of standing orders number 186.6 of the Kisumu County Assembly standing orders. I wish to table today, Wednesday, 31st May, 2023, a report by appointments committee on the suitability of Dr. Ezron Makobewa for the position of chairperson, Kisumu County Revenue Board. Thank you.
Honorable members, I want to convey that I'm the chair of this particular committee, and I did mandate the Honorable Leader of Majority to lay the paper on behalf of the committee. And I also want to confirm receipt of the same report again having been laid. That's the report on the suitability of Dr. Hezron Makobewa for appointment to the position of Chairperson Kisumu County Revenue Board by the appointment committee. And I want to direct that the House Species Committee schedules this report for debate. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Yes, the Honorable Geoffrey Warindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to give a notice of motion on pursuant to the provision of sections 45(1). I wish to give a notice of motion that this House adopts the report by PICPAC Committee on consideration of the Auditor General's report on the financial statement of the County Executive of Kisumu for the year ended 30th June 2022. Thank you.
The Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give a notice of motion. Pursuant to the provisions of section 45(1), I wish to give a notice of motion that this House adopts the report by Appointments Committee on the suitability of Dr. Hezron Makobewa for the position of the Chairperson, Kisumu County Revenue Board. Thank you.
Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
It is statement time. Next order.
Commencement of business. Order number 8, ECD, Adult Education and Vocational Training Committee on the Kisumu County Education Fund Annual Report and Financial Statements for the year ended 30th June 2022 by Honorable Seto Kumu.
Yes, sir, Honorable Seto Kumu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. Allow me to move a motion on the committee.
Honorable Seto Kumu, before you proceed, this Honorable Benny Peto Iko having a hard copy. Yes, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to move a motion on the report on the annual financial statements of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022. Mr. Speaker, I'll emphasize on the motion being moved, it's not a bursary report. It's a motion on the financial statements of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, I mentioned in the morning that Article 185 of the Constitution gives this county assembly powers to oversight the county government and its expenditure. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, Standing Order 193 and the second schedule of the Kisumu County Assembly Standing Orders orders the establishment of the Committee on ECD, Adult Education and Vocational Training, whose mandate is to examine the operations of the Department on Education, Vocational Training, and Social Services to ascertain whether public funds domiciled in these departments have been utilized in lawful, authorized, effective, efficient, economical, and transparent manner. Mr. Speaker, this report therefore contains the committee proceedings on its consideration of annual statements of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022. Mr. Speaker, I know members might confuse. In the morning, we were reading quarterly reports for the current financial year, But this one is the annual statement for the last financial year. So there are two different documents for the whole financial year. Honorable members, the Kisumu County Education Fund is established by and derives its authority and accountability from the Kisumu County Education Fund Act 2014 and its amendment that was done in 2016.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker, sir.
What is the point of order, Honorable Benny Petoiko?
Mr. Speaker, sir, we need clarity from the chair. He's trying to say that what was read in the morning were financial statements. That is to say, the quarterly financial statements. The quarterly financial statements that were read in the morning, they were relating to what? It's now telling us this is report on the annual financial statements of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022. This one is relating to what? And are they related in one way or another? Because he's telling us we should not be confused.
Honorable Setokum.
Thank you, Honorable Eko, for asking early. The other one was, the first one we were discussing in the morning, Honorable Member, are the quarterly reports for this current financial year. For this current financial year ending June 2023. But this one here is for the last financial year ending June 2022, Honorable Member.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you.
They relate to what?
Honorable.
The bursary, the scholarship. And when we talk of education fund in this county, what are we referring to?
Honorable Benny Petoiko, let us have the rules of debate. You, just like you did it first, when I notice you, I give you a chance. So, anyway, what are you saying, Honorable Benny?
Mr. Speaker, the quarterly financial report that were read in the morning, they were relating to what? The financial statement that is now being read relates to what? Because we are being told that we should not be confused.
Honorable Benny Petoiko, Honorable Seth Kumu, maybe let me protect you. I think the mover of the motion has made it clear that all the statements were relating to the county education fund, but the financial years are different. In the morning, what was presented was for the first and second quarter for the financial year ending 30th June 2023. But if it was for the first quarter and the second quarter, which means that is 30th of March 2023. What is being presented, I think I have a copy and you must be having a copy, is the same fund, but for the financial year ending June 2022. So, Honorable Seth, I think I've made it clear. Honorable Benny Petoiko, you have the report. Let the mover move the motion. You will have a time to debate.
Honorable Speaker, let's just be simple. The two reports relate to bursary scholarship. One is a raw record presented to us, the way the executive is spending the money. The other one of 30th June 2022 is the audited report on bursary and scholarship. Then we move on.
Honorable Benny Petoiko, I want to direct that you let the mover move the motion. You will have your time to present your views when the motion is proposed for debate. And I direct.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for clarity, so that the honorable member can move with me, this is not an audited report. This is annual statements. After spending the money, after the end of every quarter, you are supposed to submit to the assembly how you've spent it. Then after the end of the financial year, you tell the assembly. Then after that, that's when we do auditing, honorable member. So this is just a financial statement. It would help us even before the auditors come. So I proceed, honorable members, that the Kisumu County Education Fund, derives its authority and accountability from Kisumu County Education Act 2014 and its amendment that was done in 2016, giving us Kisumu County Education Fund Amendment Act of 2016. The fund has specific mandates geared towards social welfare within the county and in particular, pursuant to the Kisumu County Education Fund Act, to be used to assist students in educational institutions to obtain education for matters incidental thereto. Based on the important role the Education Fund plays towards county development, there is need for proper utilization and accountability of public resources invested towards realization of mandates of the educational institution used by residents of Kisumu. It's on this basis that the committee considered the annual financial statements of the Education Fund based on the findings from the annual financial statements. The committee was able to come up with various recommendations for its consideration by the House. Honourable members, the committee held 6 meetings where it received and considered various analyses of the annual financial statements from its secretariat. The submission received on the basis of observation, findings, recommendations of the committee as outlined in this report. Honourable members, this can also be obtained from the minutes of the committee and Hansard reports of the proceedings. Honourable members, mandate of the committee. The Sectoral Committee of ECD is established under Standing Order 193, and it's mandated to consider all matters relating to pre-primary education, adult education, village polytechnics, home craft centers, and child care facilities. Honourable members, I would like to repeat this, that this committee is mandated to consider all matters related to pre-primary education, adult education, village polytechnics, home craft centers, and child care facilities. The committee has 15 members with the Honourable Setho Kumu as the chair. The Secretariat has Herman Moses as the clerk assistant, Rose Baraza as sergeant at arms, and Jacqueline Akinyi as the answered reporter. Mr. Speaker, we want to thank your office and the office of the clerk for assisting the committee in coming up with this report. Mr. Speaker, I might not repeat the legal framework of this committee, but I will mention the articles because we did that just in the morning. Honourable members, Article 185 of the Constitution, especially 185(3), reads, "A county assembly, while respecting the principle of separation of powers, may exercise oversight over the county executive committee and any other county executive organ." Article 201 of the Constitution 2010 has these principles. And it says, the principles of spending public money. Article 201A says that there shall be openness and accountability, including public participation in financial matters. And Sub-Article 2, that public money shall be used in prudent and responsible way. And 3, that financial management shall be responsible and fiscal reporting shall be clear. Article 226 of the Constitution places direct personal liability on management and administration of public funds. Section 116 of Public Finance Management Act gives the County Executive Committee member for finance the powers to establish public funds. And that's how we came up with this education fund. Section 117, subsection 7 of the Public Finance Management Act provides procedures of accountability in county public funds. And it reads, the administrator of a public fund shall, A, prepare accounts for fund for each financial year. 2, not later than 3 months after the end of each financial year, submit financial statements relating to those accounts to Auditor General. And lastly, present financial statements to the County Assembly. I think this is where the Honourable Member was confusing about audited reports and financial statements. It's this financial statement that's taken to the auditor for auditing, Honourable Member. Honourable members, the Kisumu County Education Fund Act 2014 established the Education Fund, and the Amendment Act in 2016 amended the Principal Act of 2014. Mr. Speaker, on management of the Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022. The Kisumu County Education Fund is currently managed and administered in accordance with Section 5 of the Kisumu County Education Act 2016 by a Fund Administration Committee. And these are the members. As at June 30th, 2022, the Board of Trustees: Oliver Olo Otunga, Chairperson; Dominic Odipo, member; Rospin Akinyi Yande, member; Hilda Oda, member; Richard Okech, member. And the management, the key management officers as at June 30th, 2022 was Penino Nyango, Chief Officer; Michael Adar, Director ECD; CPA Kezia Okoth, Fund Accountant; and CPA Evans Ogweno, representative of the Chief Officer, Finance. Mr. Speaker, analysis of the financial statements for Education Fund for the year ended 30th June. Honourable members, the Education Fund established, administered in accordance with the Kisumu County Education Fund and currently operates on key development objectives set out in Kisumu County Government Integrated Development Plan, which is to improve education standards and increased number of students intake by granting bursaries and scholarship to eligible students. This annual financial statement has thus been admitted in accordance with Section 116, subsection 7 of the PFM Act 2012, which requires that at the end of each financial year, the administrator of a county public fund shall prepare financial statements of the fund in accordance with the standards and formats prescribed by the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. During the analysis of the annual financial statements, the committee deliberated on the following subject matters of the fund. 1, we were looking at the statement of financial position. 2, we were looking at statement of cash flows. 3, we were looking at statement of comparison of budget and actual amounts. 4, we were looking at notes of the financial statement. And 5, we are looking at disbursements. Honourable members, that needs to be clear so that you know what the committee was looking at to arrive at the recommendations that they have. We were only looking at 5 things, and I'll repeat: 1, statement of financial position; 2, statement of cash flows; statement of comparison of budgets and actual amounts; notes to the financial statement; and disbursements. Mr. Speaker and honourable members, the fund statement of financial position as at 30th June 2022 reflected a balance of 11 million for current assets, down from 32 million. This was erroneously indicated as 320 million, recorded in the financial year ended 30th June 2021, while the following assets and liabilities recorded zero balance as at 30th June 2022. And non-current assets recorded zero balance, current liabilities zero balance, and non-current liabilities zero balance. Therefore, the statement of financial position on the educational fund recorded an accumulated surplus of 11,224,572 as at 30th June 2022. Which was the closing balance of the fund as at 30th June 2022. The next thing we looked at was cash flows, and that's what I was going to now. The fund statement of cash flows for the year ended 30th June 2022 recorded a total of 196,147,439 paid from the fund through supporting schedules provided to support the expenditure. The following operating activities were incurred by the fund: Fund administration was 6,150,000, and then disbursement as bursaries was 189,997,439. Honourable members, I say that we are also looking at statement of comparison of budgets and actual amounts. The Education Fund statement of comparison of budget and actual amounts for the period under review shows that the Education Fund had a budgetary adjustment of 2,373,011 shillings, summing the final budget for the fund for the financial year ending 30th June 2022 at 207,372,011. The fund, however, had an actual expenditure of 196,147,439 and a surplus of 8,852,561, which indicates a 95% utilization, and which means 5% of the fund was not utilized as at 30th June 2022. Mr. Speaker, on the financial notes, the fund notes to the financial statement further shows a breakdown of how 6,150,000 for the fund administrative cost was spent, and the following expenditure breakdown is provided. Honourable members, we are analyzing the document as it was presented then. Bank charges, 530,647. Facilitation of meetings, 541,341. Supply of stationery, 981,881. Monitoring and evaluation, 415,800. Hospitality services, 176,250. Distribution of manifests to schools, 537,600. Ward administration cost, 2,803,000. Honourable members, during this analysis, it was not possible to confirm whether the expenditure breakdown for the fund administrative cost is accurate, since there is no supporting schedules to ascertain the expenditure. The expenditure of the fund administrative costs, therefore, raises the following pertinent questions. One, whether bank charges for an amount of 6,150,000 can accumulate to 530,647, as this does not tally with the current rate of bank charges, commissions, interest policy of the Kenya Commercial Banks effective 1st January 2020. Two, what kind of stationery was the fund administrator supplying, and to where to cost the fund an amount of 981,881. And three, whether the Enabling Act envisages need for ward administration for the fund to cost as high as 2,803,000. Disbursements of the Education Fund as at 30th June 2022. One, marine students, marine students was 4,200,000. The previous year, there was nothing. Scholarship payment was 53,237,454, but we didn't provide one for the previous year. Scholarship payment as at July, from July to March, the first one was May to December, then July to March, 51,961,389. Then bursaries for that financial year was 80,598,596, totaling to 189,997,439. 439. Honorable members, it's observed that the expenditure on bursaries had a negative deviation of 36,403,134 as at 30th June 2022. An implementation matrix showing the exact number of beneficiaries was also not adduced before the committee. Observations and findings from the analysis. We finished the analysis and now we are making our observation as a committee. Honorable members, following the consideration of the annual report and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2022, the committee made the following observation. 1, the fund administrator failed to resolve the issues raised by the Auditor General in the audit report for the fund for the year ended 30th June 2021 for the management and administration of the fund. 2, we also found out that the fund statements of comparison of budget and actual amounts for the period under review show that the education fund had a budgetary adjustment of 2,373,011 shillings, summing to the final budget for the fund for the financial year ending 30th June 2022 at 207,372,011. The fund, however, had an actual expenditure of 196,147,139 and a surplus of 8,852,561, which is a total of 205 million. It is therefore not shown in the financial whether the 2,373,011 adjustment. It is not shown where that 2,373,011 went to, on how it was spent. This is money that they carried forward from the previous year, and in their expenditure, they can only show up to 205. 3, the fund administrative cost is high-risk area which should be guarded with stringent policy directives to prevent the risk of misappropriation. 4, that the fund notes in the financial statements under transfers to the county government is not accurate as it is recorded as total of 205 million as payments by county government to the fund account and disregards the data provided by the fund statement of comparison of budget and actual amounts, which indicates budgetary adjustment of 2,373,011. 5, that there are no supporting schedules to ascertain the actual number of students who received scholarship and bursaries during the year under review. 6, that the fund administrator has continued to administer the fund without regulation. 7, that there was underutilization of the fund by 5%. And 8, that there was no award policy to prevent conflict between members of county assemblies and ward administrators. And lastly, that the fund financial statement does not give a true and fair view of the state of the fund's financial position as at 30th June. Mr. Speaker, having gone through the document we were given, made those observations, we made an effort to reach the department, and we had a meeting with them. And in that meeting, these are some of the things that happened. Mr. Speaker, on 13th March 2023, letter date reference CAK CGK volume 3/3/21 2, submitted to the CCM for finance and economic planning and copied to CC member for education by the clerk of the assembly. The fund administrator was instructed to provide supporting schedules including LSOs, LPOs, bank statements, relevant documents to ascertain proper management of the fund incurred for the following expenditure. We were interested in the fund administration cost of 6,150,000. We are interested in financial record of the expenditure of 2,373,011, and we wanted supporting schedules for 11,224,572 which was carried forward to this current year. Consequently, on 11th of April 2023, the committee received a letter by the CCM member Education and Technical Training, Innovation and Social Services forwarding supporting schedules for the expenditures incurred from the fund, and the committee was informed as follows. On the 6,150,000, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the response from the department adduced before the committee, the supporting schedules of the administration cost incurred on the year under review was submitted in the following expenditure. There's a serial number, description, and amount that I will say. The bank charges, they responded that was 540,647. Facilitation of meetings was 541,341. Supply of stationery 981,881. M&E 415,800. Hospitality services 176,250. Distribution of manifests to schools 537,600. Ward administration cost 2,803,000. Mr. Speaker, the supporting schedules of the following expenditure was not sufficiently submitted. Out of those that I've mentioned, the supporting schedules for expenditure of 541,341 for facilitation of meeting. And then there was 415,800 for monitoring and evaluation. That was not accounted for at all. Then the 176,250 on hospitality services, the accounted expenditure is less than the reported amount, and that also happened to facilitation of meetings. Then in the 2,803,000 for water administration cost, the accounted expenditure is less than the reported amount. On the bank charges, based on the financial statements of the fund administrator had reported that the bank charges incurred during the transaction of the fund was 530,647. However, upon submission of the bank statements, the committee established that the bank charges incurred for the fund during financial year under review was 490,072. So when we got the bank statements, we added the charges, and we could only get 490,072. And they were recording 530,647. I believe if you have the document, you can also help us ascertain that. Mr. Speaker, the committee also observed that the fund administrator did not formulate monthly bank reconciliation to support bank charges in accordance with Public Finance Management Regulation of 2016. On supply of stationery, when we invited them, the committee observed a payment protocol for one UKEMA General Supply who was awarded a tender for the supply and delivery of general office stationery for bursary and quotation CGK RFQ ED 2021-2022/005 for amount of 999,107.2. A payment voucher reference 244102 of the said service was adduced before the committee, indicating UKEMA General was paid 981,881.2. So even though he was awarded a tender of 999,107, he was only paid 981,881. And that's why they were reporting expenditure of supply of stationery at 981,881. But Mr. Speaker, there was no local purchase order attached to the invoice as per the requirement, that no delivery note from the service provider was attached to the invoice as evidence that indeed the said items were supplied, and that there is no invoice for the payment of UKEMA General Supplies. Other members, I'm talking of a meeting that we held, and we had deliberation even after that. That there was no invoice for the payment of UKEMA General Supply. And lastly, that the certainty of inspection committee chaired by one Paul Cordero cannot be determined, as there is no signed minutes of its deliberation or appointment letters instructing them to sit in the committee that was adduced before the committee. So on that day, the committee therefore found out that it was unable to ascertain the propriety of amount paid to Leukemia, as at the meeting we were having with the department then. On facilitation of meetings, when we were meeting the department, the following payment vouchers were adduced before the committee. A payment voucher for one Mr. Japheth Ochieng, PF 2001 500-8269 of 76,405, being purchase of stationery and communication and catering services for the bursary team. Payment to Mr. Adonga Mbala of 24,000, being allowance for first launch of bursary for financial year 2021-2022. Payment to Japheth Ochieng of PF 2001 1,08269 of 360,500, being for 5 days per diem for the ad hoc committee appointed for bursary and scholarship preparation. Honourable members, the committee has taken notice of the following attendant inconsistencies in these expenditures: that there were no receipts for the amounts incurred for purchase of stationery and catering services to support payment of 76,405. That even though Japheth was given 76,405, there was nothing to show that he actually bought the goods he was supposed to buy. That two, there was no supporting schedules for payment of 24,000 made to Mr. Adongo Ambala. And three, that there are no receipts and signed attendance list to support the per diem payments made through Mr. Japheth Ochieng to the ad hoc committee. So even though the ad hoc committee, even though Mr. Ochieng took money for ad hoc committee, there's nothing to show that they actually got the money. Honourable members and Mr. Speaker, the committee therefore pursuant to this finding is unable to ascertain the propriety of the amounts paid to both Adongo Mbala for allowances, Japheth Ochieng for per diem and for stationery, communication and catering services, as at the meeting we are having with them. Distribution of manifest. Payment voucher of 537,600 being facilitation for distribution of manifest to sub-counties after scholarship payment with authorization dated 6th March 2023 was also adduced before the committee. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, the procedural architect of spending public funds pursuant to the Public Finance Management Act regulation policies follows that a payment voucher is the final authorization by the accounting officer meant to certify that the price charged on a particular service are in accordance with the law and reasonable, and that the expenditure had been incurred on proper authority and a certificate of relief has been completed. The payment voucher should therefore be signed before the actual payment is done. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, take notice that payment voucher for the award of 537,600 was signed and authorized on 6th March 2023, nearly 5 months after the end of the financial year, while its imprest warrant was signed in 17th December 2021. Honourable members, the committee is unable to establish reasons for the timeline difference between the dates when the imprest warrant and payment voucher was signed. The committee is therefore unable to ascertain the validity of this payment, and proper utilization cannot be established. That is for the money spent for the distribution of manifest. Money spent for ward administration cost. Honourable members, the following ward administration cost expenditure were adduced before the committee. 1. Payment of Nyakach sub-county bursary administration cost. On 21st January 2022, one Mr. Mbogo James, the Nyakach sub-county administrator, requested an amount of 307,500, being bursary administration cost distributed to 5 wards at 61,500. It has been observed that pursuant to payment voucher dated 21st March 2022, done for the payment of bursary of ward administration cost to Mr. James Mbogo, an amount of 389,350 was approved for payment. He requested for 307,500, but a payment was approved for 389,350. is, however, not known by the committee why the amount paid to Mr. Mbogo had exceeded the amount he had requested for by a deviation of 81,850. The committee has further observed that there are no receipts to support payment done in regards to Nyakach bursary administration costs. Therefore, the propriety of this expenditure cannot be ascertained. We are saying that yes, money was given to Mr. Mbogo, he was given more than requested, but there is nothing to show that he spent that money in ward administration. Honorable members, payment of Kisumu Central Bursary Administration costs. The committee also reviewed payment voucher dated 4th March 2022 for Kisumu Central Bursary Administration cost of 467,100 paid to Samson Jageru, the sub-county administrator. It was observed that there was no receipts or supporting schedules to support this expenditure. Mr. Speaker, the payment of Nyando sub-county bursary administrative cost, the payment voucher dated 22nd June 2022 for Nyando sub-county bursary administrative cost of 389,350 to Peter Abiero, the sub-county administrator. It was also observed that there was no receipts to support the payment. Yes, Peter Abiero received money, but did he spend it on water administration? We couldn't ascertain. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, the bursary administrative cost request for 311,480 done for Seme sub-county by Mrs. Magdalene Nancy Wasama, the sub-county administrator, dated 25th January 2022, did not have a payment voucher, impressed warrant, or any payment evidence, and therefore it cannot be established whether this amount was paid or not. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, the committee has further found out that the bursary administration costs for the following sub-counties were not reported. It is therefore not known, based on the evidence adduced before the committee, whether the sub-counties were issued with bursaries at all during the financial year under review. The sub-county of Kisumu West, the sub-county of Kisumu East, the sub-county of Muhoroni, and the sub-county of Seme. No, Seme is there. Honourable members, it's noted that while the fund administrator indicated that the amount incurred in water administration cost was 2,803,000, only 1,163,950 was reported through with deficiencies on supporting schedules. Yes, they reported having spent that money, but anything to show that this money meant what it was supposed to do, we could not ascertain. Financial records of expenditure for 2,373,011 adjusted during supplementary budget of the year under review. The committee was informed that the figure of 2,373,011 disclosed as an adjustment of statement of comparison of budget and actual amounts for the year ended 30 June 2022 was the opening balance as at 1st July 2021, as supported by the certificate of bank balance on 30th June 2021, and that the management inadvertently treated this figure as an adjustment when in fact it was an opening balance in the beginning of the year under review. The committee therefore observed that there was no adjustment made during the year on the initial allocation of 205 million for the Kisumu County Education Fund. Supporting schedules for Kenya shillings 11,224,572 for the current assets in the year under review. The fund management informed the committee that the figure of 11,224,572 disclosed in the statement financial position as of 30 June 2022 under current assets is the closing balance as on 30th June 2022 and supported by the certificate of bank balance. Recommendations, honorable members. The committee, having considered the annual financial statements, the committee hereby makes the following recommendations to specific officers. That one, the fund administrator and the fund accountant to submit this honorable house a progress report on measures taken to resolve the issues raised in the Auditor General report for 2020-2021 within 21 days of adoption of this report. The fund administrator and the board of trustees of the fund to take personal liability for any unverified loss made during administration of the fund. In particular, fund administrator and the board of trustees must show cause why unverified expenditure of 2,373,011 that was adjusted in the fund budget within 21 days of adoption of this report. That the CC member responsible for education to submit to Kisumu County Education Fund regulations to this honorable house for approval and for better implementation of the act. And lastly, that ESCC should initiate investigation on the fund administrator and board of trustees on the manner of the management of the fund, and it's found liable of misappropriation of public fund, the officer should take personal responsibility. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, it's therefore my honor and privilege on behalf of the Committee of Early Childhood Development, Education, Adult Education, Vocational Training to move this motion. And I want to humbly ask the honorable member, where is that? The Honorable James Omolo to second.
Someone sublime. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to second. Thank you.
Honorable members, now that the report on the annual financial statements of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022 have been presented by the Committee on Early Childhood Education, Adult Education and Vocational Training. Seconded, I want to propose a question. And I propose that the Committee on Childhood Education, Adult Education and Vocational Training report on the annual financial statement of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022 is open for debate. Yes, Honorable Bedi Peto Iko.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the report is a good one because it gives us the loopholes in the way the money is being spent at the department. In the morning, we were crying here over the matters of scholarship and bursary, and what this report has given supports our outcry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this one has been good all along. Mr. Speaker, when we look at this report, we know that the total allocation for bursary scholarship is 205 million. When you go through this report, there is nowhere where they have tabulated the expenditure of 205 million. That gives the picture of the report that the department is not sincere with its records. Mr. Speaker, sir, when we see some sub-countries, their expenditures are not tabulated. That is page 19. Kisumu West sub-county, Kisumu East sub-county, Muroni sub-county, their expenditures are not tabulated. And when you look at page 13, the total expenditure given is 189,900,000 997,439. We would assume that the difference is what is hidden for the 3 sub-countries. We may assume so, Mr. Speaker. When you also look at this record on page 13, 2020-2021, we are being told the total expenditure was 174,171,290, but that year we know there were problems. The bursary was not paid in full. I think the chairman will be in agreement with that. So, Mr. Speaker, the County Executive Committee member for Education should be taken to task. Because when there is serious outcry on the matters of bursary and scholarship, and this is a kind of record presented to the Assembly, and this is a kind of report, Mr. Speaker, that should be forwarded to the Auditor General for auditing. This shows us that the report that the Office of the Auditor General has been giving Kisumu County, the adverse report, they are right. The figures don't add up, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we hear some of us always lamenting that we need to interrogate the reports and give the picture of the report on the table so that the executive will know that we take our time to go through their reports. Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, in general, the recommendations made here, and we know that this report, the auditor report has not reached here, but the auditor report of Kisumu County is already out. I wish this one has also been audited, and the adverse report is given as depicted in this report, Mr. Speaker, sir. And these are the kind of information, these are the kind of figures that at times, if a situation will be there where we have a cup of tea with the governor, we will trickle him with them. Mr. Speaker, we cannot have a situation where every report presented has such enormous gaps, gives a picture that the department is hiding some figures. The records are window dressed. The records are camouflaged, Mr. Speaker. It gives a very bad picture of us. So with this kind of picture, Mr. Speaker, let the House make its decision. But the committee has tried. The committee has tried. The department will also hear that we read their report. When 981,881.20 cents is spent, and there are no supporting documents, and an officer feels strong enough to submit that record and he wants to defend. Mr. Speaker, when we look at the ward administration cost, it is well known that each ward gets 61,500, Mr. Speaker. A simple arithmetic of 61,500 per ward times 35 ward gives us 2,152,500. And here it is 2,803,000. And when this money, we are not now seeing where 61 million specifically is asked. It is being asked in block. When it is asked in, the requisition is made in block, that could be okay. But let us take the example Let us take the example of Nyakach, where the name of the officer was mentioned. Nyakach sub-county, page 18. He requested for an amount of 307,500. 307,500, Mr. Speaker. 307,500 divided by the 5 wards in Nyakach, that is 61,500. And we are being told here that he was given an amount of 389,350. He was given excess. That explains what goes under the table. With the exposure of this kind of records, the members will now know what goes on in the education department and why bursary and scholarship has been a teething problem since Governor Nyong'o came to office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Obaso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start by commending the committee for their findings and for their recommendation they have made. Mr. Speaker, from this report, you can clearly see that there is money being embezzled by the staffs of our great county. And Mr. Speaker, going by this, I think the department head of this department should be put to task and be answerable for this deficit being found in this report. For these few remarks, I beg to support this report. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Nerea Kombo, the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this report and urge honorable members to adopt it. Mr. Speaker, the report is so elaborate, self-explanatory, considering even how Honorable Pete, the most rebellious of us all, has given a nod and complimented the committee on a work well done. Mr. Speaker, I may not have so much to say, but I just want to add my voice and say that the executive, especially the education, the docket dealing with education, to be serious on its work. Mr. Speaker, the Act was passed in 2014. Mr. Speaker, we are in 2023 and still there's no regulation. Mr. Speaker, you can see how money is being spent without any guidelines. And I don't think, Mr. Speaker, that that department is showing us any seriousness. Mr. Speaker, I recall there were several complaints in the last regime of bursary and scholarship forms being filled by the needy students and no money is being sent to schools. Mr. Speaker, it's been months. We are in the sixth. We are in the 6th month. Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, the bursary forms were filled in January. And to date, Mr. Speaker, no disbursements have been made to school, no proper explanation. And you can see how they spend this money. Mr. Speaker, it's high time we insisted they submit that regulation. And even 21 days, Mr. Speaker, to me is too much, but we may need to follow the protocol. Mr. Speaker, I know I'll be out of order, but I know after Pete giving a nod, the mover may just have, I know I'm out of order, Mr. Speaker, but I know if Pete gives a nod, I know all members will give a nod, Mr. Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this report, and I'm not going to talk about what my colleagues have enlightened. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about this area of mode of payment. This is an area that is making members of the County Assembly very unpopular. Mr. Speaker, the mode of payment that is being used by this board, that is the electronic transfer of paying bursaries, is really not good for us, because when they send the money electronically, the parents are not aware. The students on the other side, if they find rogue bursars, they are not aware. So you find that money is lost in between. And how I wish that we reverse to the check system. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I would urge the Honorable House of this Assembly to amend the Act, because this is about where we have ward bursary committees having done good work, and the list is taken to them, and then they make reviews without giving reasons why they have removed some students. I have a case in my ward where more than 50 names are missing from the list that was presented to them. Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge this House through this Committee of Education at least we amend the Act. And Speaker, I know from this end now I'm talking as the MCA, I think this is a board that should be disbanded, because this is very severe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Honorable Onditi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this report partly on two grounds. Mr. Speaker, the most two areas where members of the community listen to as far as devolution is concerned is education sector and the roads. Mr. Speaker, today you see these 100 members. Most of them are afraid of going to the village because every now and again your gates and your doors are being knocked because you are asked where is the bursaries. Students are at home and we don't know what's going on. You don't even have an answer to give to these people. When the community knows that the person who gives out the bursary is the MCA. And probably that's the reason why I'm saying this, because initially I was a member of this committee and we had a very candid conversation with the CCM Education some times back that we need to make this arrangement well away in advance so that the process of payment don't take too long before the students are sent home. Mr. Speaker, looking at this report, there's too much glaring cases of culture of impunity. Because you look at some of the recommendations that are presented here and some of the areas highlighted by the committee, you wonder why some officers, even as junior as chief officer, fund manager, or fund officer, fail to submit very crucial documentation to support the report and move ahead to send the report to this House, knowing very well probably that this is just a usual work whereby it's going to be rubber stamp and there's no action taken, even if he knows there is glaring cases of misappropriation or inaction, Mr. Speaker. And I think we should take this thing seriously, and this should be a case whereby some of the officers need to be disciplined so that others who are planning to develop this kind of tendency should learn from this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know, because sometimes you listen to some of the people from this department, it's like they don't know what's going on in their department. I remember a case of bursary. The department of the governance where the ward admins, the village admins come from, are the one controlling the bursaries, whereby you realize the department does not know anything. When you present a matter to them, they refer you to the Department of Governance. The village admin seems to know everything, even more than the chief officer. So there's a lot of confusion in this department, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I support the majority leader that we need to amend some section of this act to align these things so that at least we have a very clear cut on how this fund, this department, and particularly this fund should be managed. Otherwise, the person who is going to bear the burden of the confusion between here is the MCA, because the person that the voter or the grassroots or the beneficiaries is in direct contact with, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Dede.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according me the opportunity to also raise my sentiment concerning the report. First of all, I have to differ with a colleague, whereby it says that when one of our colleagues announced the report, he accepts. Hereby, we came to legislate for all of us, not that when a person has accepted with the report, it's just passed in that manner. My concern is about the disbursement of money according to the way it was stated. We found that around 420 million was used in the marine students, but the breakdown was not brought clearly that the 420 million was to cater for how many students? Okay. Then to proceed with that, my worry was also concerning about the administrative cost. We found that in each and every ward, the administrative cost was supposed to be 61,500. Yet we come to a sub-county like Seme, which managed to get 311,480, which was supposed to be around 246 to be disbursed. If you calculate 4 wards in a sub-county by 61,500. That's my main worry over the issue. And also, being that I was in the the second assembly, I'm now convinced whereby I had a problem with answering questions concerning the bursaries and scholarship within the ward, and the money was not being disbursed well, and it was due to the embezzlement by the money was being embezzled in the department by the officers working in the department. And lastly, I also concur with my colleague, whereby mode of disbursing the money should come back to check form than going into payment through the accounts. That's what I have for the thank you.
Yes, Honorable Adorija.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support, but to my former chair and honorable members of education, I want to thank you for a good job that you have done. You have brought a very good report before us. But my concern here is there is a serious issue in the Department of Education. If you look at these reports that has been given to us by the committee, but I want to pin out, I don't know whether Mr. Seth will answer that later. Honorable Seth, sorry, thank you. Oh, these three people in that, in the education office, Mr. Dongambala, Mr. Japheth Ochieng, and there are three. They are being mentioned everywhere. I think these three people, action should be taken against them. Or maybe the other people are using them to do away with the money which is supposed to assist our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Pamela.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to call upon the mover to reply.
Honorable Seth.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. I want to really thank the members this time for listening closely as I was presenting the report and giving their input. I want to specifically thank the honorable member for Kabunyo Kanyagwali in his absence. I think for the first time he took time, but I think, Mr. Speaker, it's only because we were taking him through the report like a child. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with the Honorable Majority Leader that we need, as a cost-cutting measure, we need to amend the Act to remove those committees that are increasing the cost of bursary. The 2 million that we are spending on administration is enough to take several kids to school. It's not justifiable with this financial statement that we cannot administer the bursary without such high cost of administration. Mr. Speaker, I had the honorable member for Kisumu North, the Honorable Samuel Day, the talk of 420 million for marine. I know Dede is getting old and cannot read properly, so I'll help him. The figure was 4.2 million, the honorable member, so it's not 420. On the administrative cost per ward, I want to agree with members that some of the wards we could not ascertain why they gave out bursaries as per this report, but we could not see any charges on administrative cost. But for those wards that have higher cost than the ones that they requested, the explanation, which was not convincing to us, is that in the previous financial disbursement, they incurred cost and they were not given the full amounts, and that had to be paid in the financial year ending June 30th, 2022. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, the honorable member for Chemelil, not Chemelil, but yes, Chemelil Tam Ward, the honorable Frederick Odari, is saying that we have members here who have been mentioned so many times. I don't believe so many times, but we have mentioned them where costs were incurred and they were involved. And that happens to so many other members, so it will be hard to just pick on the three of them when that's happening to several other people. But I want to agree that the recommendations that we are making will help us ascertain, because right now what we are saying is we don't know if these monies were spent for the right purpose. That's the reason we are bringing this report here. And that's why we are making those recommendations. And that's why this report goes to the auditor, so that auditor ascertains if these expenditures were really done. But for us, it's a preventive tool for us so that we don't reach questions when the auditor now brings before the House. Honorable members and Mr. Speaker, I also want to agree with the honorable members that we've tried the bank transfers to schools in payment of monies from these funds, where monies move direct from this fund to institution. But Mr. Speaker, it's hard for parents to ascertain whether these monies have reached schools because they have nothing to show that money that they've been given any monies for such institutions so that they can take them to schools. And I want to agree with the majority leader that despite the cost incurred, it would be better if we go back to the check system where a parent has a copy of check or the check itself to take to the schools, and they can tell the school that, yes, I was given money by the county government of Kisumu and I want that to be charged against my children's school fees. Because what happens, the parent goes to school, the bursar or the accountant of the school says, no, we've not received the money. The county government says we have paid the money, but there's nothing to show because it's bank-to-bank transfer. So, honorable members and Mr. Speaker, I want to really thank you so much for discussing this report. And I want to believe that in adopting this report, what is most important, honorable members, is pursuing the implementation of the recommendations. After saying yes here, we have an implementation committee to help us pursue the implementation of the recommendations of this report. And we'll always put them to task as the Committee on Education to ensure that if we pass a report here and it has recommendations, then those recommendations are implemented. Otherwise, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to reply.
Honorable members, now that the Committee on Education have presented the report on the annual financial statement of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022, seconded and debated, as per our standing orders, I want to put a question. And I put that as many of the opinion that the Committee on Early Childhood Education, Adult Education and Vocational Training report on the annual financial statements of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022 be adopted, say aye. As many of the contrary opinions say nay. The ayes have it. And the Committee on Early Childhood Education, Adult Education and Vocational Training report on the annual financial statements of Kisumu County Education Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022 have been adopted today, Wednesday the 31st of May 2023 at 15:58 hours. And I want to direct that the recommendation therein be communicated for the relevant authorities and departments for action, and that the Committee of Implementation to follow up on the same as per our standing orders. Next order.
Order number 9, adjournment on a definite matter of urgent county importance by Honorable Kenneth Oko.
Yes, the Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I want to remind the clerk that I'm Honorable Kennedy Ooko, and not Kenneth Ooko. Mr. Speaker, I stand to move a motion of adjournment, aware that Kisumu County Assembly Standing Orders number 31-1 provides that any member may at any time rise in his or her place and seek leave to move the adjournment of the County Assembly for the purpose of discussing a definite matter of urgent county importance. Further, aware that public participation is a fundamental right enshrined in the 2010 Kenyan Constitution, acknowledging that the Assembly has scheduled the public participation on the budget estimates financial year 2023-2024, which shall take place on Tuesday, 6th June 2023 at all sub-county levels, which needs the participation of all members and the staff. Further acknowledging that the budget estimate was submitted to the County Assembly, which has timelines which must be met. Now, therefore, I urge this Honorable House to adjourn until Wednesday, 7th June 2023 at 14:30 hours. Honorable Speaker, public participation will enable members to interact with their electorates and understand their feelings towards our budget estimates for the financial year 2023-2024. So it is very important for all of us to attend. And I will ask this House to approve, and I ask Honorable Pamela Oyo to second. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Pamela Oyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to support the motion of adjournment. I want to support the motion because it is important for this House. Financial report and financial budget estimate is a key fundamental function of the county government. And we have a holiday, which is tomorrow. And I think if we adjourn, members will have an opportunity to attend the public participation that is on Tuesday next week. Because of this adjournment, I'm asking all members to attend this time, because you have been given time. You have no excuse of not attending. I stand to support. I stand to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, now that the leader of majority have moved a motion of adjournment, I want to refer to our standing orders and propose that the motion on adjournment, as moved by the majority leader, is open for debate. Yes, the Honorable Geoffrey Warindu. I've noticed, Honorable Get, I know I was also aware if you are moving or you are, but anyway, I'm sorry for the rest. Honorable Geoffrey Warindu, go first, then you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stand to support the motion.
Can we, the member whose phone is on, microphone.
I stand to support the motion for the adjournment. And indeed, we need time to go and interact with our electorates to enlighten them on the importance of public participation, more so on the budget estimates. Secondly, we also need to adjourn so that we can go and come back re-energized, as we have a lot of things in tray waiting for us. And I believe this will go down well with us. Thank you so much. I stand to support.
Honorable Ngeta, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise up to support the motion of adjournment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, public participation is one of the key, or where we get the request from our electorate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we are all aware, that there is no any development which can be done without public participation from the ground, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I concur with our majority leader that we have to attend the public participation, which is coming on Tuesday, and we can adjourn Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the motion.
Honorable Eunice Aland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the adjournment because it is important for members to move back home and join our electorates when coming up with the projects for the next financial year. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Samuel Dede.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the motion of the adjournment due to the task ahead of us. As the members of the County Assembly, we have got roles to deliver for our people. Mainly in the Assembly, all our electorates can't be in the Assembly, and as a representation to our members, we are going for a public participation, whereby after working out over the issues concerning the budget, when we come to represent them, we'll know the issues as per their needs within the locality. So it's wise we go to the ground, not only to participate in the public participation, and also to interact with our electorates, because majority of us resides out of their wards, and it's now high time they at least go and visit their people after having stayed in town for quite some time. Otherwise, I stand to support the motion. Thank you.
Honorable Akwach.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable members. I think we all know the importance of public participation, and especially these ones that we are going to, that is going to be conducted about the budget. And for that matter, I think we should not waste time, and going by the mood of the House, I think it is prudent for me to call the mover to reply. Thank you.
Honorable Akwach, I want to rule you out of order. Once you debate, you need to familiarize yourself with the standing orders. You cannot debate and again call the mover to reply. Yes, Honorable Alice Wajewa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to report, to support the adjournment, because it is clear that we have a holiday tomorrow, and we only have Tuesday, which is public participation. And it is in order for all the members to go back to our areas and prepare our electorates on public participation, which is going to happen. So I think it is in order, and I support the adjournment. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Obaso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Judging by the mood of the House, I call the mover to reply.
Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a motion that is very precise and very specific, and I want to thank all the members for supporting it. And as has been said by Honorable Alice, that it will give members enough time to prepare for their electorate to attend the public participation, and also to enable at least Honorable Dede at least to go back home and participate, and also visit members of his family that he has missed for a very long time. Mr. Speaker, public participation is a very important exercise for both the members and the electorates. And without much ado, I reply, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Leader of Majority. Honorable members, the Leader of Majority moved a motion. And the motion being adjournment for definite matter of urgent county importance, quote-unquote public participation on the Kisumu County proposed budget financial year 2023-2024 until Wednesday, 7th June 2023 at 14:30 hours, seconded and debated. I want to bring ourselves to the provisions of standing order number 26(3) on the calendar of the County Assembly, and I quote, that on a day when the County Assembly is scheduled to adjourn to a day other than the next normal sitting day in accordance with the County Assembly calendar, The leader of the majority party or the leader of minority party or a member of the County Assembly Business Committee shall move a motion of adjournment which shall be debated for not more than 3 hours, after which the County Assembly shall adjourn without question put. And going by that, honorable members, I want to declare that the House stands adjourned until Wednesday, the 7th of June, 2023 at 14:30 hours. However, the committees that are supposed to sit on Tuesday will sit in the morning hours of Wednesday. Next week, that is Wednesday, the 7th of June, 2023.